If no work is being done, there's going to be no progress. Reading books is not work. Producing documentaries is not work. That's good information, but that's not the struggle. Information is a necessary requisite for struggle, but it does not replace it. And unfortunately, many of us have gotten into a mindset that says having the information is enough. Because I've read this book, I am struggling. Because I've made this documentary or am watching this documentary, I am struggling. No, you're not. Don't confuse capitalism with activism. That's a big problem we have now, because we blurred the line between struggle and personal financial aggrandizement. They're not the same thing. You can make money in the course of struggle. If that is your business, there's nothing wrong with that. I have my book, for example. I sell my book, but I do not give lectures to sell my book. I give lectures to inform and organize the people, whether or not the book is there or not. So there's a difference. Is your capitalism driving your activism, or is your activism the priority over and above the capitalism? In other words, if I walked in here and Brother Nigel said, well, Dr. Umar, we can't allow you to sell your book. I don't understand why not. But guess what? I'm still going to do my program. Because the book is needed and it's necessary. But I'm not here to make money. I'm here to make a difference. And that's one of the biggest problems we have, I see, on the formal academic scholarly level, as well as the grassroots conscious community level, where people are primarily getting involved in this work to get paid, to make a profit, for personality and ego-based satisfaction.
A very, very pleasant morning to you. We're live from the studios of IRI FM, broadcasting from the studios of IRI FM here in Ocho Rios, St. Anne. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Africa Forum. Welcome to the Pan-African space. Seeking truth in this here space. Learning from the past. Absorbing the human possibility, the spirit of human possibility, honoring my moral obligation to remember. We're not Africans because we were born in Africa. We're Africans because Africa was born in us. Those are the words of Chester Higgins Jr. It's International Women's Day. This year the theme is Empower Women, Empower Humanity. Picture it. Today is March 8, 2015. I know we were scheduled to be in Negril, but we're not in Negril. We're not in Negril this morning. We're not at the Herb Fest. We're coming to you live from the studios of IRI FM. Quite a few challenges in terms of getting or broadcasting live from Negril, including, of course, uncertainties toward the end as to whether or not the organizers, the license, the permit that was issued at some point to the organizers was revoked. And then late night into late evening, and then again late evening, negotiations, the permit was restored. Of course, with all those uncertainties, here we are, broadcasting live from the studios of IRIA FM. Nicholas Evans and part of the outside broadcast team, the engineers and so on, they have been bringing the sights and sounds of the Herb Fest all day yesterday. So it is still on. Started yesterday and rather started going into today. But of course, we won't be broadcasting from the Herb Fest today. But just to let you know, we're live from the studios of IRIA FM. On this here International Women's Day, with the vision, as usual, to reunite the African family for development. Our mission statement, and we've got a statement or two. Blazing new paths towards Africa's rendezvous with destiny. Bearing witness, demanding change. Crafting an African-centered agenda for change and development. And of course, we talked about honoring my moral obligation to remember. Very pleasant morning to you on the internet at iriafm.net. Thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum this morning. Very pleasant morning to you on the 107s, 107.1, all the way to 107.9. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Uncle Johnson, life, prosperity, health. Indamin Adaru, good morning. Tanestelin, greetings. Jambo Wote, how are you doing, my people? So we spoke in the Medunetta. The Medunetta of a sacred language of ancient Kemet, Ankh Uja Seneb, life, prosperity, health. In Amharic, in the Minedaru, good morning. And Tanastaling, greetings. And of course in Swahili, Jambo Wote, how are you doing? We're going through until 10 o'clock this morning. My name is Kabu Ma'at Keru. You can follow me on Twitter at Kabu Ma'at Keru. You can find me on Twitter at the Africa Forum, but my Twitter handle is at Kabu Ma'at Keru. That's K-A-B-U, Kabu. Ma'at, M-A-A-T. Keru, K-H-E-R-U. We're on Facebook, on the social media. Kabu Ma'at Keru Williams. Of course, you can check out my blog. We're all over the social media. We're also on Tumblr, Foursquare, Pinterest, you name it. We're everywhere. There's an old African saying that when your house is burning, it's no use beating the tom-toms. Amilcar Cabral tells us that we are not going to eliminate imperialism, colonialism, oppression by shouting insults against it. Amilcar Cabral tells us that for us, the best or worst shout against oppression, against imperialism, against neocolonialism, whatever its form, is to take up arms and fight. The words of Amilcar Cabral. At 20 minutes after 6 o'clock. We're not deceiving ourselves. Deception is a state of mind and the mind of a state. So as we blaze new paths towards Africa's rendezvous with destiny, one of the things we're sure of is that unless we, in the vein of the great African warrior women on this International Women's Day, the Mino, in the vein of the great African warrior women of Dahomey, now Benin, that unless we defend our sovereignty, our country, our state, our Africanness, our right to be, then we'll always be oppressed. Got a lot coming up inside of the program this morning. It's International Women's Day, and so we're going to be speaking about this theme: empower women, empower humanity. Picture it. Only the black woman can say when and where I enter. And wherever we enter as black women, empowered black African women, one thing we're sure of, the entire African race enters with us. Going to be speaking with the Executive Director of the National Family Planning Board, Dr. Denise Chavons-Vogel, this morning about International Women's Day here in Jamaica. Empowering women, empower humanity. Picture it. What does that mean for the family? Also going to be speaking with my good friend Blacker Ellis, Owen Blacker Ellis, on his book Rhythm and Riddles. We're going live to Honduras, where Roger Haspel is. In focus this morning, Thomas Sankara's remains are to be exhumed. Throughout the morning, we are going to be interspersing conversations, discussions, monologues, about African women in the African liberation struggle. Women in the African liberation struggle. Women have always been at the forefront, integrally involved in their struggle for African liberation. Going to be calling some of their names this morning. Also, we're looking ahead. We're looking ahead to the big date, March 22. Sunday, March 22, IRFM's Health Fair and Charity Run. Save a date, mark it on your calendars. A massive health fair here in Otrias of a Turtle River Park. IRFM's Health Fair and Charity Run in aid of the A&E Outpatient Department of the St. Anne's Bay Hospital. So joining me this morning, Damien Scott, Regional Health Promotion Officer, Northeast Regional Health Authority, NERA. Assistant Regional Nutritionist, Tamara Riley from NERA also. Medical Officer of Health, Northeast Regional Health Authority, Dr. Phillips Kelly. And the Public Relations Officer, Northeast Regional Health Authority, NERA, Angelique White. They join me this morning as we look ahead to IRFM's The Health Fair and the Charity Run, 10K and 5K. Remember now, IRFM's Health Fair and Charity Run is on Sunday, March 22. It's going to be a big, a very, very massive one, a large occasion. And we want to say thanks to all those persons who have already indicated that they are participating and confirmed. Very pleasant morning to my good friend, Senator Floyd Morris, who will be one of the participants. Thank you so much, and a very, very pleasant morning. And a big thanks to Richie Stevens, friend to the program, whose Cat Tech you'll be hearing much more about. I know you've been hearing a lot about it. There's going to be a big thing on that Sunday morning. March 22 is going to be massive. It's going to be great. The IRFM's Health Fair and Charity Run. And this charity in aid of the St. Anne's Bay A&E Outpatient Department. Also on the bottom line this morning, and I really do hope that we can get around to it this Sunday, we're looking at ganja decriminalization, and we are asking questions about the challenges, and of course arguing that decriminalization without commercialization is a recipe for failure. My broadcast assistant this morning is Shamara Preston. My name is Kabuma at Kiru. We go through until 10 o'clock. We have lots more in between. Thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum this morning.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
Free Africa, running Africa, Ahaya Jamaica. So what?
And the many, many other black children, the souls of black children, brutally murdered by those who look like them, brutally molested, brutally raped, brutally killed. The scourge in Jamaica that will not go away. Many years ago, many moons ago, I recognized how serious this condition was, the situation was here in Jamaica. And I started talking about it in this space and in every other program I did then on this station. I dedicated every single program to this, and one of the feedback we got from that is that with every agency and with almost everyone we reached out to say we must do this together. If we're going to change this profile, if we're going to change this condition where our children are being molested, where they are being violently and viciously raped, where molestation, incest across all social classes here in Jamaica, if we're going to change that, there's only one way to do that. First, we have to call it what it is. We have to name it where it is, call it what it is, recognize it for what it is.
I wish I could say.
And we have to be bold in terms of not holding hands with rapists. We have to be bold in terms of calling their names, whether they are politicians, those who molest young girls in Jamaica. I talked about that many years ago and was threatened for it. Had to move houses twice as a result of it. And yes, I'm going there. And then when I was desperate in that, here we are in this space, here we are reaching out to the agencies to be part of the public education process, and all doors were slammed in our faces. We're talking about incest, molestation, rape in Jamaica. And in that period of desperation, I started asking publicly, after asking Jamaican women to bawl out when you see incest, bawl out where there is child molestation. Now the question I started asking, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? There was one reason for that question that I asked in that space over and over and over and over again. So when we see the Prime Minister and her entourage heading to St. Thomas, where little Kealicia was viciously murdered, we're understanding at her age 14, just turning 14, that she was also pregnant, which means she was raped, might have been molested before. The Prime Minister going there doesn't say a damn thing. It says nothing apart from to bring shame on her office. Too many of our children are molested. Too many of our girls on this International Women's Day continue to be violently sexually molested and murdered when they become pregnant here in Jamaica. If we do not call this, if we do not deal with this, and it happens in every single social strata here in Jamaica where big men are molesting little children, little girls, and now of late, even little boys, God forbid. There must be some righteous indignation at some point, and it cannot be that we just talk about it. It cannot be that we just turn up to the homes of those victims of this barbaric and cruel act here in Jamaica. This has been happening in Jamaica for a very long time. A very, very long time. And if you turn a blind eye, do you think it's going to go away because you do not name it, because you do not call it, because you do not make provisions to stem it in your budget? Do you think it's going to go away? And do you think if you turn up in St. Thomas or anywhere our young girls continue to be viciously raped and murdered, do you think if you turn up that is enough? It is not enough. We must see it in action. We must see it in your policies. We must see it in legislation. And we must see it being enforced. Whatever laws are put in place to stem incest and child molestation. What do we have to do? What has to happen? Isn't the vicious, violent, chopped to death murder of a 14 pregnant-year-old girl enough to say we draw the line in the sand right here? It's not enough. You know, we're very good in Jamaica, and I've been looking at this for a good while. We're very good at talking. And we're talking our way. We're talking our way through the mess. But it's not going away because it is our mess to clean up. So the theme on this International Women's Day is Empower Women, Empower Humanity. Picture it. Yes, we're trying to picture it, but we can't see it for all the dead bodies lined up. All the dead bodies of our little girls lined up. Underaged, pregnant, and killed. So we can't picture it. And we're not glossing over it. So when you go to your church services this morning, face yourselves, you hypocrites. Face yourselves. We are not able to picture it. There are too many dead bodies of young girls lining the streets of Jamaica. Young girls who continue to be violently and viciously sexually molested and in many cases killed. We cannot picture it. We want to, but we can't. It's All Souls Day in Angola, and we're declaring it Black Girls Souls Day here in Jamaica. All Souls Day here in Jamaica for our black girls. There is plenty of poverty in the world in which we live. Let's not blame this on poverty. But more awful is the fact that so many people, including children, are forced to lead miserable and precarious lives. Let us fix this deficiency. Madam Prime Minister. This deficiency. Madam Prime Minister. The Minister of Youth is female. No one person can do this. We're going to have to do it together to change this.
I wish I knew how
this predicament. Amartya Sen tells us, relates in general to deficiency of social security arrangements, the absence of social responsibility and of caring governance. Caring governance. For all our little girls this morning, wherever you are, these young girls, a lot of them call me personally all the time when they're trapped in homes where they continue to be molested. And when we pass them on to the agencies, the response we get from agencies in so many cases is so cold. It means that there is no structure. It means that it's systemic. It means that there is nothing really in place in terms of the human component to catch these young girls. So on this International Women's Day, when you tell me that empowering women and empowering humanity is a theme and that I'm to picture it, I speak for the souls of black girls here in Jamaica. I can't picture it, not right now. Not until we fix this general deficiency. So for all young black girls here in Jamaica, and for all young girls in Jamaica who continue to be molested, and it seems the system has been failing you for far too long. On behalf of those girls, I speak. And once again we ask, if a tree falls in the forest and there is no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? We must take note of a steady upsurge of poverty, crime and violence in Jamaica. We must take note of how common it has become for our children to be abused and slaughtered. We must take note of this. It is not our way. It is not the African way. It is not our way. We must not ignore the deafening silence and absence of national outrage in the face of this bloody and economic terror. It is what it is. Economic terrorism. And you know, we've been saying that it is evident that social forces at work have structured risk for extreme suffering and violence. In the fallout, we have become disassociated from ourselves. The souls of black girls in Jamaica.
I wish I knew how to put feet to be free.
Now 2 minutes going up to 7 o'clock here inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African.
Jeffrey Africa. Running African ye. Ahaya Jamaica. So what take kaka say boso kadia ewo Ire FM.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth.
The voice of those who are oppressed, and for those who cannot, because they do not have a space, or because the suffering is too great. The oppression is mighty, and the boots in our necks are strangling us. We speak in this space, in your voice and for you, the children of Jamaica. Alicia, who a system allowed to be molested, raped, impregnated, and killed. It's a system that allowed it. The 3 siblings burned in the fire. The tragedy of poverty. Abigail, Leonardo, and Bebita, 9, 15, and 18 years, living alone, economic terrorism, while the ministers behave raucous in parliament, cuss out each other, and the prime minister makes her way to St. Thomas as if that. What have we done? What have we done? Economic terrorism has led to this and will continue. Empower women, empower humanity. We want to picture it. What have we done? Our only sin is that we're black. When the enemy's at the gate, there's an old African saying, when the enemy's at the gate, it makes no sense beating the tom-toms. So we're not going to be singing and dancing. We're going to do as Amilcar Cabral tells us. We're going to face this head on and stand up against poverty and economic terrorism and oppression and selfishness.
Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
Here's a love song. Here's a love song for the little ones, the souls of black girls here in Jamaica on this International Women's Day.
Malaika,
I love you, my love.
nakupenda malaika.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth. Hide nothing from the masses of the people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victory.
Welcome back. You're inside of the Africa Forum. It's Running African. It's a Pan-African space. It's a black space without apology. Understanding who we are. We're Africans not because we were born in Africa. We're Africans because Africa was born in us. Out of the drums we come. Just thought I'd talk that. Yeah. And we love that, you know, the Del Jones, the international war correspondent. Well, this is not Del Jones, but he does have that poem that says, out of the drums we come. As a people, out of the drums we come. You know what? I'm going to play it. At 18 minutes after 7 o'clock. Today, March 8, 2015, is being observed as International Women's Day. This year is devoted to the theme, Empower Women, Empower Humanity. Picture it. For us here in Jamaica, I have declared it. Black Girls Souls Day. The Souls of Black Girls Day. Today also marks 1 year exactly since Flight M370 disappeared. Remember that flight? Malaysia's Transport Minister says he's confident that Flight MH370, which disappeared almost a year ago, will be found in the southern Indian Ocean. Liao Chong-lai told the BBC recently, well, it's overnight actually, that search teams would keep looking for the aircraft, which had been carrying 239 passengers and crew. The Malaysian airline, as you recall, was on its way from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing when it vanished. Investigators were due to release a report on the search today. We're keeping our eyes open for that report. I think it might be out by now. Australia is leading an international search team in the southern Indian Ocean. That's approximately 1,000 miles off its west coast. Can you imagine? A flight disappeared exactly 1 year ago today, and No trace of it at all. With 239 passengers and crew aboard and no trace. Almost a year after. Who'd have thought it? Also recalling Bloody Sunday in Selma 50 years later. This weekend also marks the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights March, known as Bloody Sunday. On March 7, 1965, 600 people tried to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge and were attacked by Alabama state troopers. U.S. President Barack Obama has marked the 50th anniversary of the Selma Civil Rights March in Alabama by paying tribute to the heroes who took part. He delivered a speech commemorating Bloody Sunday. That's yesterday. He delivered that speech on March 7, 1965, when security forces attacked black demonstrators in the city. Did you see that speech? I watched it from beginning to end. I don't know, lots of praise for that speech, but for me it was pretty soft. Pretty soft. You know, when we try to... Obati Shaka talks about the integration trap. And I think that this is where U.S. President Barack Obama has found himself, in an integration trap. So that I'm sure yesterday I'm sure he would have wanted... I am sure. You know, I am sure. He must have wanted to talk about the continued and ongoing racism. He must have wanted to talk more about Ferguson, and that Ferguson is not unique in terms of the racism in the police force in America. He must have wanted to talk about the fact that he knows that if he were a white president, that Benjamin Netanyahu would not have been invited to Congress without him knowing. And then he wouldn't have had the audacity to speak the way he spoke, you know, in the United States against the President of the United States last week. He must have wanted to talk about the way his hands are tied because he's black. He must have wanted to talk about racism in 2015. But it's the integration trap, and we're going to be talking to Professor Obati Shaka very soon about that. He has written extensively about the generation gap and the integration trap. So Israel has no problem with an integration trap. The Holocaust is as fresh in their minds as it was the day it happened. For us, the Ma'afa is already forgotten by many, many generations. As a matter of fact, denied by so many. Let's not talk about that. It should be a crime punishable by life imprisonment with parole once you get your African mind back, to deny the Ma'afa. It should be a crime. As it is a crime in France to deny the Holocaust. Talking about France, you know, France is very, very involved in Africa. Have you noticed? Yeah. Has always been, but watch it, even more so now. On China's heels on the continent of Africa is France. And our African brothers and sisters are just too happy to be francophone. We understand that ISIL or IS have bulldozed the ancient Assyrian city of Nimrod in northern Iraq. UNESCO is calling it a war crime. You know, a lot has been destroyed by the Arabs across North Africa. Egypt, for example. What they haven't claimed they have destroyed in Kemet. And Zahawi Hawass is the bane of our existence. Chief archaeologists and everything else in Egypt. So Nimrod is an ancient site. It was founded in the 13th century BC. Its reported destruction comes a week after video show ISIL militants smashing priceless statues at the Mosul Museum, that's northwest of Nimrod. Further south, meanwhile, Iraqi forces and Iranian-backed militias are fighting to take the city of Tikrit from ISIL. And they too are burning. They're burning. They will burn what they have not built. I found that out. And every time we go to Africa, to Egypt, we see this more and more. They will destroy what they do not understand, and they will paint over and whitewash that which they do not know. UNESCO is just as guilty. So UNESCO is saying the destruction of Nimrod by ISIL is a war crime. Well, I want to say to UNESCO that it's a war crime to go through West Africa and to whitewash all the walls of all the dungeons in the so-called castles where our enslaved ancestors were held. You can't whitewash history, no matter how hard you try, but you know what? If we're not vigilant, and this is where the integration trap comes in again, if we're not vigilant to ensure that we pass the history, that we tell our children about who we were, who we are, where we came from, how we came up the River Nile and spread out across West Africa, and then what happened, this interruption that happened, this vicious time in our history when the white men came and parked their ships on our shores, and what happened to some of us. And if we do not tell our children about the resistance, about the women, that the women warriors of Dahomey, and the women who fought in the resistance wars, and if we do not tell our children about the men, our prince, our kings, our chiefs, our brothers, our fathers, and how we stood up and fought and resisted. So we must tell them about the glory days of civilization. We must tell them about who we are, and where we came from. So that no matter how UNESCO whitewashes the dungeons of West Africa, that what we know about ourselves remain true. We're embracing all of a history, because there's also a history of resistance. There's a history at the point at which Amilcar Cabral talks about that to fight imperialism and colonialism, we must take up arms and fight back. That's also our history, and so at this moment we invoke the spirit of Ni Tachi, Chief Taki, Ni. Ni in Ghanaian is prince, right? Which so for Taki, who we call Chief Taki, and since there's no such name in our language, Chief Taki, we know about his Tachi, and we know his Ni, Prince Tachi. All right. The United Nations has reported that nearly 500,000 people were displaced in the Darfur region of Western Sudan last year. That's the largest amount in a decade. We're going to have to come back to Sudan another day. An estimated 300,000 people have been killed in the ongoing conflict in Sudan. It's about land and it's about oil. Liberia has finished treating its last Ebola patient. The WHO announced the country has gone a week without any new cases for the first time in 10 months. And to bring it back to the United States, have you heard that attorneys for the family of Michael Brown have announced plans to sue the city of Ferguson, Missouri, and Darren Wilson, the police officer who shot and killed the unarmed African-American teenager. Attorney Anthony Gray made the announcement a day after the Justice Department said it would not bring civil rights charges against Wilson. That's news briefs. We've got In Focus coming up. Later on in Focus, we're going to be looking at Thomas Sankara, because Thomas Sankara, the remains have been, well, there has been from the United States government, from the government, but Thomas Sankara's remains will be exhumed. I got totally distracted. I'm so sorry. All right, yes, so that's the story. We're going to be having that in Focus in a little while. Talk a little bit about Thomas Sankara and what this means. Hope to do some interviews shortly. Also, we're remembering in this space, and he's still with us, our elder, Dr. Ben Jochannan, very good friend to the program. He came twice on the invitation of this program, Africa Forum, here to Jamaica. Spent quite a bit of time here in Jamaica. And he's been ailing for some time. And we understand that he's gone a little bit lower than usual this morning. Thank you so much, Ian, for sending me that information. We're going to be making contact with Professor Jeffries to see if we can find out how Elder Ben Jochannan is doing. But we understand that he's pretty low this morning, just to alert the African family. It's International Women's Day, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with the Executive Director of the National Family Planning Board, Dr. Denise Siobhan-Vogel.
When we lose our African connection, we lose our rural connection. When we disconnect ourselves from Africa, we cease to be a world people. Without the African connection, we are a disjointed people, begging for the entry into somebody else's house. All right, you're inside of the Africa Forum. I'm going to go to the phone lines now to speak with the Executive Director of the National Family Planning Board, Dr. Denise Siobhan, on this International Women's Day, with this year devoted to the theme, Empower Women, Empower Humanity, Picture It. All right, so we're standing by to speak with Dr. Denise Siobhan, as I said before, the Executive Director of the National Family Planning Board here in Jamaica. All right, as we go to the phone lines, Dr. Denise Siobhan. Good morning, Dr. Siobhan.
Good morning, Kabul, and happy International Women's Day.
And to you too, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're most welcome.
Right, we're talking about the theme, and we've been talking about it all morning, Empower Women, Empower Humanity. But in addition to the fact that this is International Women's Day, this is 20 years since the declaration, the Beijing Declaration and platform for action,
yes,
which of course is a blueprint for achieving gender equality and empowering women. What does, how far have we come in 20 years? Do you want to just look back to go forward?
I think Jamaica has made a lot of progress. I think there have been many achievements. Certainly if you look at our demographic profile, I can think in relation to sexual and reproductive health. So the Beijing platform was one of those seminal platforms for gender equality. But there was another platform called the International Conference on Population and Development in 1994, to which Jamaica is signatory. That was a platform of action to really empower women through accordance of sexual and reproductive health and rights. So if I were to look at the indicators in Jamaica in terms of what we have achieved, we have a sexual and reproductive health profile that has shown improvement. So our total fertility rate has been declining. Mm-hmm. It was 2.8 in 1997, and on the date of our last reproductive health survey, which was in 2008, it was 2.4. We need to get that down to 2.1, which is called replacement level fertility. Mm-hmm. Unplanned pregnancies too, also on the decline. from 61% in 1997 to about 45% in 2008. Our contraceptive prevalence rate is going up. So that has increased from 65% in 1997 to about 72% in 2008. But there are pockets where we really need to pay closer attention. So, for example, teenage fertility, teenage pregnancy is still a huge challenge in Jamaica. 18% of births in Jamaica are to adolescent girls aged 10 to 19.
18%?
18%.
Yeah, that's pretty high, isn't it,
Yes.
Dr. Shavans?
Right, and 40% of women in Jamaica have had a child before they reach the age of 20. 85% of those pregnancies are unplanned. So this now is against a background of some of the structural barriers that still disempower women. So there is early age of sexual initiation. 12% of young women and 35% of young men initiate sex before the age of 15. So we have early age of sexual intercourse in Jamaica.
How does
gender-based...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I was going on to say we have gender-based violence, incest, sexual abuse. Those are some of the structural issues that help to or further disempower women. On the occasion of International Women's Day, what we want to do is call to action all of the further interventions and actions that are necessary in order to empower women and empower humanity. The Millennium Development Goals, which spanned a period of up to 2015, actually, it ends in 2015. The Millennium Development Goals were coined by nations around the globe, including Jamaica, where they would identify certain goals and targets to aim towards as a sign of development. Now, Jamaica has done very well in certain of our Millennium Development Goals, but there was three particular ones where I think we need to show further progress. One of them is Millennium Development Goal 3 on gender equality. That particular goal was to have 30% of Parliament be comprised of women. Our figure is of the order of is less than 20%. So we still have inroads to make. We're still lagging as far as gender equality is concerned, as measured by that Millennium Development Goal indicator. It means greater empowerment of women.
All right, let me stop it there because we've been using the word a lot, and I really want to talk to you about what does it mean to empower women. When we say empower women in this context,
well,
and
Kabu, some people would claim that Jamaican women are very empowered, and perhaps compared to our sisters in sub-Saharan Africa or even Southeast India, Jamaican women may appear on the surface to be empowered. So people will look at the enrollment rates, particularly at tertiary education. In every class of 100 students in the medical faculty or in law, the majority of them are women. So people will say, so what are you talking about? Jamaican women are empowered. However, if you look at other indicators, for example, as I mentioned before, the one about representation in Parliament, the one that speaks to decision-making, presence on private boards, executive boards, at chairperson level, women still are not represented in Jamaica. Unemployment in women is higher than it is among men. Yet we know that the country is matrifocal, so some almost 50% in certain instances of households are headed by women who bear the brunt of the economic decisions, the socialization of children, everything related to the development of the child rests with women. But against the background where some of their social and economic empowerment is not yet in place to the extent that we would wish.
And it's interesting because even as you're talking about that, I'm thinking of, you talk about society being matrifocal, and that for us is a conundrum in terms of how it plays out in the empowerment of women. I look at the church, for example. When I say the church, I'm just speaking generally here, where there's so many male leaders in the church, but that the hardest working and the core and the engine of a church are the woman auxiliary, the women's groups, and so on. So is there another factor at play which might involve Christianity and a Christian education and so on, which tells the woman that she must be subservient? Because I know, educated, tertiary graduated women who, because of a teaching of a church, have made themselves subservient to the male.
Yes, it's not just the religious practices of some churches. It is also the socialization, the gender socialization of men and women that suggests that women occupy an inferior position compared to men, that men are the ones who are in decision-making roles, greater roles for greater income. So this is some of what happened with the gender socialization, and that also suggests that women should not be as vocal, as fervent, as less aggressive. It's the socialization that suggests that a feminine woman ought to be soft and in support of men, whereas men ought to be demonstrate their masculinity through greater physical endeavor and in some instances mental endeavor as well. It's a part of the socialization that both men and women are subject to.
And subject to, and I've bought into, because I recall Lambert Brown, for example, in the Senate a few months ago, violently, literally, standing up against, saying, for example, in Parliament that a husband can't rape his wife. And I'm saying this is where it is. This is where it's coming from. This place that is coming from. The socialization process seems to me to be connected to something else. You're socialized this way. Why? Because that's not how we socialize where we're coming from initially in terms of our African retention. So that's socialization coming from a place of where? I mean, where that coming from? That's tied to the laws. That's tied to what?
Yes, some of the laws, and I think, I believe that dialogue is taking place in relation to the law, specifically the Sexual Offences Act, to look at the definition of rape. That notion that women can't be raped is quite widespread. And
in marriage, that is in marriage. Yeah.
In marriage, yes, that's not women, I should say wives can't be raped. It speaks to some of the widespread notions on femininity and women as being sexual objects and possessed by men. But this dialogue is taking place even to define the definition of sexual intercourse, and that all marital rape exemptions be removed. So this is now one of the recommended changes to the Sexual Offences Act. And this is a dialogue that is taking place.
Yeah, Dr. Siobhan,
still a lot more to be done, though.
Right, because I want to say, it seems as if we do a lot of talking and dialoguing, as Miriam Makeba says. You talked about the gender-based violence that continue to occur here in Jamaica, and we're talking about incest. We're talking on a morning, for example, when Jamaica is reeling again from the news of a 14-year-old, viciously murdered only to find out that she was pregnant. But this is not unique. This is not like a one-off news. We hear this is happening so often in Jamaica, then it makes you wonder, when we talk about the achievements that we have made and where we're lagging, it seems that just recently there was a lot of focus on the amount of women in Parliament. And it seems that we need to shift the focus from that, because it don't make any sense to have a lot of women in Parliament and they cannot affect the law in any way and affect action, put it that way, action. And to shift our focus now to how do we begin to re-educate and to re-socialize and to deprogram and to fix this problem that's resulting in the continued gender-based violence against girls and women.
I think it will come through greater community-based initiatives, greater dialogue. No, there was a time when you would have town hall meetings. I think women's groups forming to give messages of empowerment to young girls.
You're sounding just a little bit lower now, Dr. Siobhan. So
yes.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
One has to start earlier with girl children. I think the role of the media is also important, because girl children and women are very often portrayed in very sexual ways. The media, the music, the dance hall, for example, and not just dance hall, it's also soca. Many some of the music genres are very disrespectful to women and further subjugate women and put women in a place of inferiority as sexual objects, until women learn to claim their civic, social, and political rights to autonomy and decision-making. I think we're going to have a very difficult road to trod. I think it requires group empowerment processes as well as at the individual level. Mm-hmm. And as I said, to start earlier. We have to work with our men too, because men, if you think about it, work with our men too, because men, if you think about it, are also victims of the gender socialization process. Not all men are patriarchal. Not all men are aggressive and dominating. So I think we need to bring our men in too, and our boys, teach them early that hitting a woman is never ever acceptable. Abuse is never acceptable, and that no means no.
And and I heard you mention dancehall just now, and I'm not disagreeing with you, because I think dancehall has become a scapegoat in terms of how we look at incest, child molestation, and so on in Jamaica. Rape is another issue also. But it seems to me as if incest, molestation, child molestation, this is happening at every social level.
It happens at every social level. I agree with you. And I wasn't suggesting that dancehall somehow perpetrates the notion that incest is okay. I meant it in the way that it reflects women, the gal syndrome, and that women are sexually available to men, and the debate between the matey and the wifey. It's in that kind of way that I meant to suggest.
Yes, and I understood that, but I just wanted to ensure that our listeners view this in the widest possible context. In the theme, when we say empower women, empower humanity, and I've been looking at this, the word empower. Who is to empower whom? Because
we have to empower ourselves. We have to seize it for ourselves. We have to start talking much more. I think we used to, in the 70s, have a lot more dialogue and engagement around these issues. And somehow the term gender equality fell off the development platform, certainly compared to what the kind of discussions and dialogues that used to take place before. Gender mainstreaming is slowly regaining its currency, certainly in the work of the National Family Planning Board Sexual Health Agency. We take gender mainstreaming as a high priority. So we look at issues to do with both men and women and the different needs of men and women when we plan for their sexual and reproductive health care needs as well as their HIV prevention needs.
So that the empowering process, you're saying that in all of that, and empowering ourselves is also going after information, talking to the National Family Planning Board as women, reaching out to you. How does that work?
Well, we are available. We're situated at 5 Sylvan Avenue, and the work of the National Family Planning Board has actually expanded now. The National Family Planning Board has been around since 1970. It was formed in an act of Parliament then to engage in family and population planning programs. But in 2013, by an act of Cabinet, certain programs of the National HIV Program, so specifically prevention, enabling environment and human rights, and support to treatment and care, as well as monitoring and evaluation. All of these elements were integrated into the family and population planning programs of the National Family Planning Board. So we now have a much more expanded mandate for not only the work that we used to do before in terms of improving contraceptive choice and safety, but we also have a mandate to reduce sexually transmitted infections, including HIV, to promote healthy sexuality among adolescents, reducing harmful practices in an environment where human rights are respected and protected. We have a mandate to provide sex education and encourage the development of that. And as you just most aptly point out, we have a mandate to not only undertake research but disseminate information. I think we are moving to a stage now where everybody speaks about evidence-based programming. And certainly the evidence points to, number one, ensuring that all programs are human rights-based, so that all persons, and at the National Family Planning Board, our mantra is that all Jamaicans, all families have a right to universal access to services, regardless of their age, disability, HIV status, or sexual orientation. All have to have their human rights respected. Now, gender rights are part of human rights. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about empowerment of girls and women, this is really part of their fundamental human rights.
Mm-hmm. And for young girls listening, how are they to interpret this? Gender equality, gender rights, or human rights? What should they take away from that?
What we encourage girls to do is to, number one, become educated, because the more research will show that the more educated a woman is, the more she is able to take part and take responsibility and make well-informed decisions for the rest of her life. Decisions pertaining not only to her sexual and reproductive health, but in all spheres of her life. In fact, the research also indicates that women's education is directly correlated with the outcomes of the family. The more educated a woman is, the better off her family is as well.
Mm-hmm. So that the state, Dr. Chavans, also has a very integral responsibility here. I mean, serious responsibility to ensure that in the empowering process, as I want to empower myself through education, that I have the opportunity to do that I have access. But it seems to me as if, there's an imbalance.
Well, many would say that we have access, and the statistics do point to the fact that there is access. So, as I said,
but by access, though, sorry, I mean the ability to pay for if I need to pay for, because it's not free.
No, well, tertiary education is not free. No, but if you just look at the ball statistics, there are more women enrolled at tertiary level than men. So I think in the issue of tertiary education, that is not so much the challenge as what happens after in employment, because I remember I also indicated that unemployment is higher among women than among men.
Yeah.
Not only is unemployment higher, remuneration for the same job is higher for men than women. That's another adverse effect on women.
All right, we could continue this conversation for a whole day, and I think that
whole day,
and I think we should.
And I think that programs such as yours, Kabu, and congratulations that you've picked up this message on International Women's Day to bring civil awareness to the importance of the day. It's a day to mark achievements, the dignity of women, the respect of women, to mark all of that, love for women. Women are our mothers, our sisters, our aunts. It's to mark those achievements, but also to underscore what else needs to be done. There's still an agenda that needs to be further strengthened if we are to reach true development status.
Thank you so much, Dr. Denise Chavons. We want to continue this conversation, I think, in a forum where we're having, a broader discussion about empowering women and what does this mean for empowering humanity. I'm saying from morning, we want to picture it, but, with what's happening with our young girl, we're having some difficulties picturing that right now, thinking within our own context right here on the ground. But thank you so much for helping us to further delineate the theme this year, which is Empower Woman, Empower Humanity.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me, Kabu.
All right, Dr. Shiva.
And happy Women's Day to all the listeners.
And to you too. All right.
Thank you.
Today, March 8, of course, is International Women's Day. The year is devoted to the theme Empower Women, Empower Humanity. Picture it. Now, a minute after 8. All right. Going to have to do something fast, and then we've been talking about Dr. Ben all morning, and so we're getting some news now out of New York, which we are not 100% sure of, but we know that his sister and others have been vigilant throughout the night, saying and informing the family, the Pan-African and the wider African family, that Dr. Ben was pretty low. Now we're getting some information, and then before we announce that, because I'm still not sure, so let me call Dr. Jeffries in New York, see what we get, and I come right back. All right, greetings, Sister Aisha. Thanks for the information. Thanks to all the folks who are writing in to tell me the latest news with our elder, Dr. Ben Jochannan. We are still waiting for the confirmation. Sister Aisha, if you've got, I know you do have some contacts in New York. We're trying to get to Dr. Jeffries just to ensure that we can confirm or not the information that we're getting. One thing we know, and this was confirmed up to this morning, was that Dr. Ben was pretty low, and persons were being called to his bedside for their goodbyes and so on. And now we're hearing that there's been a development. Not able to confirm it, so we're standing by to see if we can make contact with Dr. Jeffries or with anyone in New York who could give us some more information.
I would like to say good evening.
This is Dr. Ben.
And as my elder stated, that wasn't meant to be pleasuresome, but it meant to be rather serious. But continuing where he left off with respect to the youth, I would like to start my observation by saying, not too long ago there was an attempt by a young man, but probably not so young. That young man is no longer with us, but he tried to make the Urban League responsive to at least the Harlem community where its New York branch is located. With certain constraints, of course, Whitney Young tried to relate to all factions in the African community. To the extent that when he passed away, those with the label African nationalists, black nationalists, urban leaguers, and the likes felt a sense of sorrow one way or the other. That momentum died with Whitney Young. Today we see a possibility of the momentum catching on again. This time it is a sister who is bringing it forward. But more than that, as I look around in this community, I see doctors, MD, lawyers, engineers, dishwashers, street cleaners, boot blacks. This isn't the Harlem that I've been looking at in the last few years, at least since 1966. Hopefully this is the Harlem to be and to continue. There's another factor in this that I saw that I must tell my children as the days go by. We didn't see this in churches. Of course, you saw it when Richard Allen bolted the white Methodist Church. The reason was to have a church for African people, although the usual opinion is that the church belonged to all. That's the opinion. That's the practice. But then I must then congratulate the minister who allowed us to come in this church and to present a people's position of what we are about. My children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and others to come must know this, that this transition went back and forth as there were vacillation between the professionals within the African community, most of whom do not know where they lie. I think Malcolm X, I'll have to tell my youngsters that the late Malcolm X said it very succinctly about us, the professionals. When the opportunity came for a professional to get even with the slave master, and I can think of one in the White House right now. Even if it was George Washington or Thomas Jefferson or even Lincoln, the professional could not distinguish between their role as a leading people to lead the others, but felt that there was some kind of identity between themselves and the boss. That happened the other day in a place called Tel Aviv. Our mayor, I will have to tell my youngster that having a black face as a mayor doesn't mean a thing unless you have a black mind. I will tell my youngsters that your vote is nothing. Just having a vote, any fool can vote. All you go pull a lever or put the X. But for what are you voting? Is it going to be the same way you voted all the time? My grandmother, my great-grandmother have voted Democratic, so I'm going to be equally foolish? I would ask my children, I would say stop and think. The person that Malcolm was speaking about equally would have voted, given the chance at that time. But he would have voted just as the other fools today. Because he would have voted like the same man and asked the boss, "Are we sick, boss?" When there was an opportunity for the slave to take care of the master as Jesus would have done. I think it's appropriate to be in the church, because I would tell my siblings, you know, Jesus was a revolutionary. I was reading about the brother. I got to say brother because when he came down in Africa, it seems to me, and Herod was supposed to kill everything in sight that was a male, and JC hid among his brothers and sisters. That's his initial JC. He hid among his brothers. Now if JC was not black, how could this blonde child hide among these black people? I know many of you don't think so, because you would have had the same problem he had. But I'm speaking about a man who spoke the language of the people. I don't want to speak that language because it might frighten some of you. You have to run out of church. But JC said, "Give me some skin, baby," because he was of the people. So was Moses, you know, born in Egypt, place called Goshen, 85 years before he found out he was Jewish. I would have to tell my youngsters, first, before you vote and go to Tel Aviv as a congressman or a mayor, you should find where Nigeria is, where Jamaica is, where Trinidad is, Mississippi and North Carolina. Then my child, of course, would be talking about an African philosophy. I would have to tell my youngsters the reason you must look first before you even step off. You must find a philosophical concept by which you are going to live. And to find this, you must consult not only Martin Luther King, but you must consult along with Martin Luther King, along with Du Bois. You must consult Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad. And that's the male part. But sons, daughters, you must call up Sojourner Truth for the Dead, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, and then go on home and speak to Hatshepsut. Son, you got to speak to Goddess Ma'at. You got to speak to Goddess Shu. You got to not stop in Greece because they're just yesterday, son. You got to go home to the real thing. As they say, the real McCoy.
All right, Dr. Ben there speaking in the early 90s on the topic, what are we going to tell our children about their future? The latest news we're getting from Dr. Jeffries, he says that there are reports that Dr. Ben Jochannan is making the transition. He says whether this is the case or not, we should be mindful of a few things, and that this has created, unfortunately, a strain on the family and the people who are caring for Dr. Ben, the nursing home, etc. He says we're asking the family at large to be considerate of these tender moments and understand that the wishes of Dr. Ben's family come before all things. He says at this moment there is a short list of people who can see him, and if you're on that list, the family would have already told you. He says Nana Camille Yarbo did see him, and she could report that he was resting peacefully, but we are getting additional information this morning which we are not able to confirm, and so that we're going to go with this message posted by Dr. Jeffries a few hours ago. And all right, so it's a pretty long message, and it's on his Facebook page. But we are trying to get Dr. Jeffries on the phone lines and to confirm the information we're getting about our elder, Dr. Ben Jochannan. We'll keep you informed. From the album Voices of Africa, on this International Women's Day, we're called to reflect in our discussions on how colonial rulers have used indigenous African as well as settler women and women's bodies to maintain order and control. We're called to reflect on that. We are called to reflect in our discussions on this International Women's Day on what are some of the examples of women's resistance to colonialism. We're going to be calling some of their names before this program is out. We're called to reflect in what ways women have been written out of and into the colonial and post-colonial nationalist effort. And we're reflecting particularly on how women have been written out of the resistance, out of the emancipation, out of the African liberation struggles, how women have been written out. And we thank Professor Vereen Shepherd, because it's through a lot of her work that we have reclaimed some of the names of our sisters who were part of the African liberation struggle. And we're going to give you the names of some books later on. Thanks also to the work of Dr. Clinton Hutton for the women in the Morant Bay Rebellion. We're called to reflect. We're called to reflect this morning. Gonna move from that. We're called to reflect in our discussions, even as we explore the continued conversations on this International Women's Day. We're called to reflect how have women and men been positioned differently in the nationalist efforts. We're also reflecting on the responsibility as new citizens of a nation gendered. What happened to women's liberation in the liberation struggle? Is the revolution finished? We say the revolution is not finished. And while we reflect on this International Women's Day, on the revolution, and we ask what happened to women's liberation, we're also asking about the women liberators in the vein of the warrior queens of Dahomey, in the vein of Yang Asantwa and Hatshepsut, in the vein of Nzinga, in the vein of Letitia Gohigan. So we're asking what happened to the women liberators. Have we become afraid of throwing the first stone in the liberation struggle like Letitia Gohigan in the Morant Bay Rebellion? I think we're at a place now where as women we have to ask ourselves that. Am I a liberator in the African liberation struggle? Or am I a black boule? Or an academic pacifist sitting on the side? What is my role in the African liberation struggle? So we're called to reflect. On the extent to which we understand what it means to be empowered. And are we waiting for anyone, male or female, society or state, country our king, government our queen, to empower us? Or are we sufficiently convinced that we must empower ourselves? Only the black woman can say when and where I enter. And then in that empowering process, the entire African race enters with me. Picture it. Empower woman, empower humanity, empower the family. And we're empowering our men too, because our men have been marginalized. On this International Women's Day, we're not afraid to stand up for man, because we know that our men have been marginalized through the same colonizing process that we have been through. And I know every time we do this on International Women's Day, we get some complaints from women who say, no, but you shouldn't. Yes, we should. We're going through with the black family. We do not separate the family at all. Man, woman, and child. Woman, man, and child. It's one family. And if we're empowering humanity, that's who we empower, the family. So we're not allowing any conversation on International Women's Day that speaks to the disempowerment of the man. Because it's a family. Everybody must stand up strong. Whether you're in your Gideon boots or you're barefooted like the Amazon queens of Dahomey. And by the way, these are the first and the only queens in history, African warrior queen in history, that we have any documented information on. Plato's or Socrates or whoever, that Greek Amazon thing is just a myth. The Amazon, the warrior queens, the Minos, our mothers, were in Dahomey, which is now Benin. All right, we're going to be talking about them later. So we're called to reflect on this as we reflect on the theme for International Women's Day. Empower women, empower humanity. How do we picture it? I want to fix it, How do we picture it? All right, my Baba Jomo, can you tell us anything? You're there in Buffalo. Can you tell us anything? We're trying to get some confirmation here. Ian Forrest, my brother, can you tell us anything? Aisha Tafara, is there anything you can tell us? All right, as we try to get some confirmation. Dr. Jeffries, we're not able to get through at this minute. All right. By the way, the president of the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. William Warren Smith, has also spoken out on International Women's Day, talking about the grant resources financed and so on, and pointing to the significant milestones in global development agenda, including the 20th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and the adaptation of a new sustainable development agenda to replace the existing Millennium Development Goals. Every time we get close to something, they move the goalpost. The Millennium Development Goals now have morphed into something else, many somethings else. One of them, of course, is Vision 2030. Lord help us. Let us empower ourselves. Let us come up with our own vision. The vision of this program is to reunite the African family for development. We want to do that before 2030. Any time now is good for me. Let us come up with our own visions. All right, thank you so much, my brother Jomo. You're saying to me on Facebook that Dr. Jeffries was scheduled to go to Selma when you talked on Wednesday. All right, yes, so that makes a lot of sense. So he's in Selma. And, well, tell me what you can, Ras Jomo, our colleague there and a fellow Pan-Africanist in Buffalo. Jomo, get on the story for me, please. Let me know what you know. All right, thank you so much. Now, 8:34, I want to go to the phone lines to speak with my very good friend, Owen Blacker Ellis. You might have been hearing about his book, Rhythm and Riddles. Well, it's out, and the launch happened recently here in Jamaica. Must confess that Blacker tried to rush the book to me so that we could read it before this quick chat, but I haven't read it yet, and so after we've had this conversation, he'll be back and hopefully in the studio to talk about his book. So Blacker Ellis standing by to speak with Owen Blacker Ellis. His book is out, Rhythm and Riddles, just before the news, coming your way at 8:45. All right. right, to the phone lines where my brother Owen Blacker Ellis is standing by. Good morning, Blacker.
Greetings, good morning, my sister Kabu. How are you?
I am doing very well if you two are well.
Absolutely wonderful, awesome, excellent, great.
You see, I'm going to drop the African one upon you, though.
Yeah.
Blacker, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on the book. I didn't receive it, by the way, so I must apologize that I haven't read it yet.
Oh, man. I rushed a copy to your Kingston office to get it.
I know. Yeah. Everybody had left. Everybody was heading everybody was heading west for the Herb Festival. So,
okay.
So they were out early. But Blacker, I mean, I know I've been reading the reviews and reading about the launch and so on. So I know that this was a pretty exciting time for you here in Jamaica, the launch. Tell us when the launch happened and what went down at the launch, first of all.
Well, the first launch was in Toronto in November.
Yes.
Right? And that was a pretty, small event. We had about 45 people. We had a lot of speeches with the Jamaican Consul General and so on, and it was a nice, sedate evening. The Kingston launch happened last Tuesday at Red Bones Blues Cafe, and that was an awesome experience.
Yes.
I never in my life felt so validated, and it was the place sell out, the place packed, but it wasn't just bunch of people. It was a bunch of the who's who in the arts and literature in Jamaica. I mean, I look in the audience and I see Velma Pollard and Mervyn Morris and Caroline Cooper, and I'm like, wow, these people came out to support me.
Yeah.
I managed to get the book read, because I have this thing where I say I don't want to read at the book launch. I want to hear the word read by other people. I managed to get Leonie Forbes, Faye Ellington, and Oku Onua, who never before did this, read the body of his poem publicly.
Yes.
He read from the book.
And I want to read his own, and let's ask him nicely, so I can just imagine what happened there. I saw that, Black, and I said to myself that you're right, and I understand why you say so validated, and I know it comes from a very humble place when you say that, because you are, Blacker Ellis after all. But when I saw the people who read from your work, I said to myself that I don't know, we've never seen anything like this in Jamaica before.
That is so true. Somebody said I have not raised the bar for book launches.
I tell you. On a serious level. So tell us about the book now, Rhythm and Riddles, and why it's called Rhythm and Riddles.
Right. I'm very in love with poetry. First of all, I'm very in love with words, with the written word and the spoken word. But I have a particular value that I place on the written word, because the written word can so give you a space to enter a different world and leave your current reality, especially when it's difficult. So as a young man growing up in Trenchtown, I found a great escape in books from everything that was going on me. And I from very early, I had a very interesting love affair with literature, but particularly with poetry. And for me, the two things that tie me to poetry are rhythm and riddles. The fact that the rhythm of the words, so etched into your system that you remember it constantly, you like it all the while. And very often, because the poems are very usually so written so cryptic and so esoteric and strange. You spend years to work with what the words really mean.
Yeah.
So for me, that is it.
What's in the poet's mind?
Right. So the rhythm is what captivates you. And then the riddles, it takes years to work it out. And for me, that's the beauty of poetry. There was that we recite in grade 2 and grade 3 at primary school. I remember a particular poem called The Congo by J.B. Boothroyd. No, it's not by Boothroyd, by Vachel Lindsay.
Yes.
Right?
I don't know that.
And at that second grade, third grade in primary school, we recite the words. As an adult, the words is still in my head. But no, when I go to research the words, those words are very problematic for a young black youth to be reciting in Jamaica. But that's what poetry does, the rhythm and the riddle. So that's why the book is called Rhythm and Riddle. But thematically, it covers a whole heap of issues, but the issues that really are very close to my heart. Things to do with how we define and perform masculinity, how we deal with gender relationships, how we deal with the human body, a few erotic poems, intimate expressions, and also some very intimate revelation about my own life and growing up and so on, interwoven into the poetry. And of course, my deep interest in what's happening with the environment. So all of it was in the poetry, but it don't sound too academic when you read the poetry.
It sounds good anyway, I tell you, we're not so academic. But look here, Black, I mean, it's International Women's Day, we'll be talking about gendered relations, and I know I know you don't like to read your own poems. I mean, we never did ask if you read none. But are you up to reading one at least? That is that's worthy for you to play. Yeah.
Sure, definitely. And since it's International Women's Day, and I like to talk about gender relationships, I want to read one poem that C. Ellington read at the launch, and after hearing C. read it, me really, even though me write the words, for me to not read them is just so, it's kind of intimidating, but I want to read it. It's called Decree.
Yeah.
And it's called Decree, and I'm going to try to make the word speak for itself.
Yeah.
So until a bit both. So that it's called Decree. Okay. Not crying tears. She blames these springs on onion, Scotch bonnet, and the tired old stove. Not saying grace, he feeds fumbling, cutting and chewing her garlic and ginger. She sifting salt, he sucking lime. She finding fault, he marking time. Not remembering tabled manners, they spit bitter truths, expel residue of bones, blood, and the oil of hurt glistens on her chin with the taste of dirt as clawing as sin. Yet hope is, pain will wish away as anger fades like strains of curry over time. Not food in the kitchen, her cup still unbroken. Not swallowing secrets like vinegar on lips, but supping sorry, she belches bile from her chest. Hush takes long to process, and stones hard to digest. Decree.
Wow. Well, Black, I may see everything, smell everything, taste everything. Wow. That, we get it.
Okay.
Male-female relation. But Black, you capture something in our relationships, African male-female relationships that.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we really have to deal with whether we are belched by it or otherwise.
Yeah. Communication. I have this view that we communicate across gender lines, that women share and men declare. And a man will beat him chest and talk loud and like 18 paragraphs.
Black, I cannot believe that we only have a minute. See Natalie come to raise her eyes at me saying, listen, we're enjoying the poetry, but it's news time. But you have a minute. Go ahead and read it. Yeah.
Let me read one more poem. Yes. Right? Man is me, tough seed, rough passion planted, uprooted unwanted, gall in your honey, crosses on the country, fire on the ice, sort of wicked, kind of nice. It's me, Dan man, Ginal, hustler, walkabout, sweet mouth, scout, tout, chatbout, leader, lover, soldier, shatter, saintly sinner, breadwinner, dream taker, builder and wrecker, killer and the killer, pumping play, pain, squirting pleasure, exerting power, make like God but bad like a devil, wet up sun and burn down rain, sharp and steady, hard and heavy, rate me or fear me, you can't scare me, this is raw born real me, who not hear me, feel me.
Chatbot. We love it so much. I can't wait on my copy to get you a Black. And then what I want to do is to extend to you an invitation to come into the studio to have a longer conversation and to have you do some more readings. I really would want that. Thank you so much, my brother.
My pleasure. Yes,
and I know I saw an email from you just now that says that Nana is there with you.
He's here with me.
We're out of time, but we can't say morning to him. Just good morning.
Nene, come to morning and the ear to Andrea. Trust me.
Nene, we have 2 seconds.
Greetings, sister.
Hold up, Nene. Hold up. Greetings, my brother. How are you?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm good.
Black, I did this interview before you. I apologize.
Yes, it's all right. It's all right.
All right.
No problem.
Yeah, man. We talk again soon. Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
All right.
Good to hear you. All right.
Okay.
Greetings for everyone.
Okay. Well, good, Nene. All right. 8:45. It's time now for the local and international headlines.
This is news from IRI FM, Jamaica's non-aligned news voice.
Good morning. I am Natalie Campbell with the local and international headlines. 13 people were injured when a motor truck went over a precipice and caught fire in St. Elizabeth last evening. The accident occurred about 8:15 p.m. along the Lovely Point main road near Santa Cruz. Reports said that a red Toyota Tacoma motor truck was being driven along the Lovely Point main road when one of the tires blew out. Police say the driver lost control of the vehicle, which overturned into a precipice and caught fire. 13 injured people were taken to hospital. The father and stepmother of the mentally challenged woman found tied up in the cellar of a house in Windsor, St. Anne's Bay on Friday are to appear in court tomorrow, March 9. The parents remain in custody even though they have not yet been charged. Police say the matter is being brought to court for the resident magistrate to determine how the police should proceed with the case. The woman, believed to be about 20 years old, remains hospitalized. She was found naked, tied up, locked inside the cellar in inhumane conditions and appeared not to have had a bath for a long time. Reports to IRI FM News of a young woman whose mother died years ago was left in the care of her father and stepmother. It's alleged that the young woman, who is mentally and physically challenged, was being sexually abused. The woman was found after a child reportedly heard strange sounds coming from the cellar of the house in St. Anne's Bay. A man and a woman were arrested yesterday in relation to possession of ganja, ammunition, and having an illegal JPS connection in St. Elizabeth. Police have charged 24-year-old Rory Gale, otherwise called Marsh. They have not released the name of the woman. Information received is that between 5 and 7 a.m., lawmen conducted a search of a premises in Vineyard District. Police say they found 3 9mm rounds of ammunition in a compartment on a motorcycle. Gale was taken into custody and charged for illegal possession of ammunition. Gale is scheduled to appear before the Santa Cruz RM court on Tuesday, March 10. Meanwhile, a woman who was also taken into custody after it's alleged that 6 pounds of ganja and a quantity of ganja seeds were found in her possession. Her identity is being withheld pending further investigations. Members of the Jamaica Public Service Company were also called in to disconnect illegal electricity connections in the area. Jamaican medical marijuana company JAMED was launched with a symposium at UWI Mona on Thursday. JAMED represents a Jamaican company formed with an interest in securing a license in the new and soon-to-emerge medical cannabis industry. In a statement, the company says it has been anxiously awaiting the recent approval by both Houses of Parliament, which essentially decriminalizes cannabis of 2 ounces or less. The recent reform also occasions the establishment of a cannabis licensing authority, which will act as the body to regulate and grant licenses for the industry. JAMED says it has formed a strategic partnership with another company to create a medically driven and scientific approach to the effective utilization of the cannabis plant. In news overseas, families of those missing on Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 have rejected a report published on the anniversary of the plane's disappearance. The interim report gives no new clues as to what happened to the plane. One relative described it as useless. It does reveal that an underwater locator beacon battery had expired a year earlier, but it is unclear whether this impacted the search. The airliner was flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing when it vanished. Malaysia and Australia say they remain committed to finding the missing plane. As families of the 239 passengers and crew held remembrance ceremonies today, a year after the flight disappeared, some expressed their frustration with the report. Finally, an Indonesian sportswear manufacturer has apologized for printing washing instructions deemed sexist on the shirts of a top-flight football club. The washing instructions printed on the shirts by Salva Sports for the Indonesian Super League team read, "Give this shirt to a woman, it's her job." The instructions rapidly drew criticism on social media. The company offered an apology on today's International Women's Day after being inundated with complaints. Salva Sports posted on Twitter, the message is simply, instead of washing it in the wrong way, you might as well give it to a lady because they are more capable. It said there is no intention to humiliate women. In contrast, we want to tell the men, learn from women how to take care of clothes. It added that the company wanted to apologize profusely for any misinterpretations. The timing of the apology could not have been worse, as it came on International Women's Day, which celebrates women's achievements around the world. Those were the local and international headlines. News next at 11:45. You can go online to IRIFM.net to view some of the stories. From the IRIFM newsroom, I am Natalie Campbell.
How are you doing, Mr. Dwight Fraser?
I'm not too bad. You?
I am doing pretty well, thank you.
Yes, I hear it in your voice.
Well, happy International Women's Day.
Yeah, happy International Women's Day to you and to all the women. Yes,
and you can say thanks to them.
And I'm saying thanks as well. Yes.
Right,
yes. To a lot of women.
Why did you hesitate about saying thank you?
No, I didn't hesitate.
Okay.
Just closing out the sports and was prepared to run, so...
Yes, you didn't expect for me to say anything to you.
No, I expected you to say something, but, you know, I'm gathering my chain of thoughts while I go along.
Yes. A lot of our listeners want to know if you know how to talk the patois.
Yeah, man, we know we chat it, man.
No, but you can't say it with an accent, Roger. Sorry, Dwight, you can't say it with an accent.
Yeah, man, we can't chat it, man.
No, that's with an accent. Say it without the accent.
We can't chat the patois, man.
No, man.
That's not good enough.
You're not doing too well. No, do you have do you come from a family of teachers, principals?
My mother was a teacher.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Okay, you can talk patois at home.
We were allowed to, but not around our mother.
Okay.
And the extended family, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it works for you because you're in the profession that demand and dictate that you are able to manage.
But I can switch gears easily.
No, but if you can't switch it, switch it. No, hold on a second. You can't switch gear?
Yeah, but we can't switch gear.
Why do I do situation bad?
It seems I'm learning to speak patois.
I think that is why Carlin Cooper is right. We have to teach it as a second language.
As a second language?
As your second language.
No, man. I'm pretty comfortable in the vernacular. You can catch me sometimes. Yes,
hold on. Are you pretty comfortable in the vernacular then?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
yes, ma'am.
Blimey. No idea. Say, I'm pretty comfortable talking patois. I'm pretty comfortable in the vernacular. That's a contradiction.
Yes, it is, because you're mixing up now the vernacular with standard English.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I may not be as linguistic and as verse as you, but I can skirt between both.
There you go. But I'm dying to hear you skirt between both. Even the listeners are wondering,
Yes.
Dwight.
Yes.
So,
they are?
Yes, they are.
Oh, you gather some...
Yeah, man, I get messages.
Okay.
Yeah, to know if you're... The people want to know if you're born here.
What?
Yes,
man. Born a yard, man.
Bonayard.
Yes,
Bonayard. Alright, so did you hear that last story from Natalie?
About
the washing in Indonesia, the washing instructions on that football shirt in Indonesia.
About men shouldn't wash the shirt?
The message read, instead of washing in the wrong way, you might as well give it to a lady because they are more capable. Anyway, washing instructions, give this shirt to a woman. It is her job.
It's a sexist remark.
Yes. Salvo Sports, Salvo Sports?
I've heard of them, yeah. But I mean, come on now.
Yeah, they just lost my patronage.
Yeah. I mean,
and I wasn't even buying from them.
Give it to a woman. It's her job. It's suggesting that that's all women should be doing.
Yeah, and it's her job is an interesting thing. And,
okay, and if the clothes are piled up, then the men shouldn't wash it.
No, give it to a woman.
No, I disagree wholeheartedly.
An international woman say. It happened in Indonesia, and Natalie was saying to me, but not the whole company never realized there's something wrong there. So, it must have passed through a few hands before it got, printed onto the thing. And but when you're in a mainly Muslim country, where women are seen as fifth-class citizens, and where the culture is that, then you can expect things like this.
It was on Thursday I read a story of Seth Blatter reiterating his call for women to attend football matches in Iran.
Yeah, Sepp Blatter looks something.
no, separate from that, because we are going into an election.
What is Sepp Blatter? Sorry, what is Sepp Blatter's motive in all of this? What is his motive?
Well, I don't know if I could read his mind, but I think that he's suggesting that the rules ought to be relaxed.
Yeah, but he always has a motive, and he's saying Iran. So we need to know what's his motive.
Perhaps he'd like Iran to vote for him.
Maybe I'm mixing up himself in the politics.
Well, that too. But the issue at hand for me was the fact that women are not allowed into football stadiums.
Well, in Iran?
In Iran.
Are they allowed in football stadiums in Saudi Arabia?
I'm not so sure.
Are they allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia?
That I can't say either.
No, they're not. You see, Saudi Arabia is, when it comes to women, it's the most oppressive country in the world.
Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia.
I need to do my homework.
Yes, it's the most oppressive of all when it comes to women in the entire world. You're not going to find any like it.
Wow.
But you won't hear that because the Saudis and the royal Saudi family are friends, very close friends with America, with the Bushes and the Reagans and the so on and so forth. And so they're allies. So you'll never hear anything about how terrible it is for women in Saudi Arabia. But you'll always, when America is getting ready to invade any country, you'll hear how bad that country is. The most secular country in terms of even Christianity in that region was Iraq. And yet, Iraq is the one that was bombed to pieces.
Right, in the early 90s.
And continue to be bombed because right now Iraq is bombing Iraq because Iraq catch them afraid and say them bombing ISIL.
ISIS, right?
And
the United States,
America is bombing Iraq.
Is helping Iraq.
Israel is bombing Iraq. Syria bombing Syria and Iraq. People are beating up on themselves now.
In the Middle East.
Yes, for sure.
And you can count on your finger the number of countries that are in that block of warfare.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to prove to America and the West that we are not ISIL, they have turned on themselves. And so while America is bombing Iraq and Israel bombing Iraq, Iraq is also bombing Iraq. Drop a bomb on itself for sure, so we are bomb out ISIL.
And this is, I've been following this from about 1989, right? From my black and white TV. So
89.
Yes. So you know that this ain't stopping anytime soon.
No. It's going to continue for a while. And now Boko Haram, we understand, has pledged allegiance to ISIL.
Right.
To ISIL.
ISIL, right.
We now follow them and say ISIL.
No, ISIL, right. I read a little piece of that yesterday.
Yeah.
So now, then the warfare is expected to be magnified.
Well, I don't know. Let's watch and see, because I thought that they were always with ISIL. To me, the announcement don't make no difference.
Hope I could get up tomorrow morning and hear that there's peace on earth.
Well, not as long as Israel wants war.
You stunned me with that one.
No, make it stay with what it there.
Yeah.
I don't want to get you in no trouble.
No, well, all right. Yes.
I can manage it.
Well, okay. Fair enough.
Because you have to travel often.
Right.
Through the airports and so on.
Right.
I don't have an American visa. Don't have one.
But you do some traveling in your line of work. So
I do a lot of traveling.
Right.
But I might have to go through Honduras.
Yeah. And there is where Roger is.
We might have to go through Honduras,
yes.
where Roger is. But before we go to Roger, I have to hear from you.
Yes.
So don't move. So let me hear from you, and then we go to Roger. But don't move it on. Mr. You look frightened, but still we are. All right, so we're standing by to join Roger Haspel, because Roger is coming in live this morning from Honduras, and we understand that that he has his own bodyguards and so on, because he's gone down there as a big celebrity.
Yes, we have been seeing the pictures on social media.
Yeah, coming from IRIA FM, representing with the celebrity status he has, because he's really a top celebrity in Jamaica. So he has his own security.
So he's afforded his own security detail.
In Honduras and so on.
San Pedro Sula.
So while we wait for him to come in, so what's been happening so far?
This under-17 team, they face a must-win situation against Trinidad. They have United States after this, but They drew 1-1 with Cuba just recently in a game that they should have won. And so now they are they're in some trouble. They have to win today's game.
So Roger might be coming home before time.
I wouldn't want that, because this
just checking.
This under-17 team finished second in the Caribbean to Haiti when Roger traveled last year. Did well in my estimation.
Okay.
And I'm expecting them to advance from their group, but it has been shaky. 1 win, 1 loss, and a draw. So now they're on 4 points. So.
Well, we're standing by to speak with Roger live from Honduras, but I don't know if he has to, with the heavy security detail that he has. I'm understanding he's like Jay-Z style.
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, that's your understanding?
Yeah, Jay-Z, security-wise.
Yes. That sounds like a lot of security.
Right.
Yeah.
So what has he told you?
Well, the fact that the mood is in the camp, is good. Just recently, last week, they got a minor scare when an elevator fell 3 floors down, and 2 other players were injured.
So Roger was on that elevator?
No, he wasn't.
Mr. Roger Haspel, I know you've got your computer, and I know you're logged into IRIFM.net, and I know you're listening because I can hear myself in the background. But turn down the computer, please. Welcome from Honduras.
Welcome from Honduras.
Yes.
It's good to be in Jamaica via the airways once again.
Morning, Raj.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias.
You have to say Ito. Bastante bien.
Yeah, bien también.
We just talk about the whole of the Spanish book. Let's go, amigos.
Yeah. Vamos amigos.
Vamos amigos,
Yes.
So Roger, we were just talking about, the way you're traveling, that you're traveling with, in heavy security, like Jay-Z, not even Jay-Z or Kanye West or any of those guys have anything on you. Heavy security detail, man.
Yes, that's true. I mean, each time we leave the hotel, we are flanked by at least 6 police officers, even if it's one of us.
Right.
And we still want to go to the mall. They're there with us. Sometimes it's very intimidating, but, know.
And these are proper police officers. This is not like a private security company.
No, proper. I mean, these police officers appears to be trained both military and from a police point of view. So they're like half police, half soldier.
And that is, and that's because of your celebrity status, right? You personally. Because I know it's a group of you, but it's because of you why that's happening, right?
Well, if I go to the gate to take a picture, one of them come with me.
All right. So why the heavy security presence, Roger?
I don't know. I know that here in San Pedro Sula, it is on record, or the statistics show that probably they are the #1 country in terms of highest crime rate. I haven't seen any, except on the news. I mean, I haven't seen anything to suggest that though. While I'm here, but I know on the news it's quite graphic in terms of what we see here, and the stats indicate that they are probably the #1 in terms of the highest crime rate. But warm people, nice people. I mean,
yes.
We have been treated and treated very well here so far. I mean, when I went on the mall, I want to go on the mall, and a lot of people want to take pictures with us, whether anybody at all wants to see a Jamaica shirt.
Yeah.
Jamaica is quite popular down here. Bob Marley, Sean Paul.
So the even while there is that high crime rate, which is really not much different from Jamaica, you're seeing you think maybe there's another reason for the security in that they know that you're coming from Jamaica, they know there's high crime in Jamaica, and so they don't trust you.
No.
I'm just asking.
No, I mean,
it could be that too, Dwight. Yeah, it could be that too. Roger, you never thought of it. You didn't think of it that way, did you?
Nah.
I thought so. All right, no, but seriously now though, so the country, you talk about the warmth of the people. Just tell us about the country itself. How beautiful is Honduras? Because we know it is.
Yeah, we haven't been to much places outside of the capital, from the stadium and back, and I took a risk, and I had to go and explore the place myself. They have there are places in here that look, typical Central America city, where, lots of it, you would see, like, in Miami or so on, and so on. And of course, they have the slums as well. I mean, zinc houses. I mean, because economically, this is one of the lower country on the lower scale in Central America as well. But yes.
So football,
the vegetation and the hills and so on look good too. Yeah,
okay.
Football is the number one sport. It's the only sport actually in Honduras.
So then we really have to give you security because. So how is Honduras doing in the whole thing?
Well, they are in our group. They are in second place at the moment. The United States lead the group. We are in third place. With our destiny in our own hands still, although we had that disappointing 1-1 draw against Cuba, our destiny remains in our own hands because we have to do what we have to do to march on to the final round, and anything can happen then.
And what we have to do is to win now in the next match?
Yes.
When is the next match?
Win Trinidad today, and win against Trinidad today. We play US last, and by that time, we are hoping that, well, if we win today and favorable results elsewhere, meaning that, say, a Guatemala, Cuba draw, and the U.S. beats Honduras. We're not too concerned about the U.S.-Honduras game right now, but the game that would concern us, win, lose, or draw, would be the Guatemala-Cuba game. Because if we win and Cuba-Guatemala draw, then we are through to the final round, automatic. If we win and either Cuba or Guatemala win, it will go down to the last day of the group stage, and if we lose, I mean, we'll be in a very dangerous position if we lose. We never draw, but
so if we lose,
definitely not an option.
All right, if we lose to Trinidad today, you'll be home by 8, 9, 10, by Wednesday,
by Friday.
By Friday,
because we have we have the final game on Wednesday
against USA.
Against the United States.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you might have some more to say, so let me leave you to it. Anything else with the match?
Yesterday we had the training session ahead of today's game, and apparently the coach might be changing his formation. He'll be going for a diamond-shaped midfield, and there's a possibility that Jalani Hammond might get his first start out of he's from Fort Lauderdale, he represents Jamaica, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. He might get his first start, and that might be the only change from the starting lineup from the last game, where Zahir Bartley, also from the United States, Hammond might come in for him, and based on what was happening in training yesterday, we might see that starting lineup today. They concentrated mainly on set pieces yesterday, with special emphasis on scoring goals, because that is critical at this stage. They also took a lot of penalties and so on, because we missed a penalty against Cuba, which definitely harmed us in that 1-1 draw. We missed a penalty in the 3rd minute of that game, so they were penalty practice yesterday as well. And also the USA, well, they are just, if they win today, they top the group and automatically advance to the World Cup, because the 2 group winners will automatically, although they'll play in the final, they'll automatically move into the FIFA World Cup on a 17 tournament. And then the 2nd and 3rd place teams in each group will play off on the final day as well for the other 2 spots for World Cup. So that's it. I mean, we're just hoping.
Are they playing across Honduras or mainly in one place?
Just in San Pedro Sula, in the city of San Pedro Sula. They have the Francisco Morazan Estadio. That's about 5 minutes from us, and then you have the Estadio Olímpico, which is their national stadium, which is about 15 minutes from us. We play in the Francisco Morazan. It's 5 minutes from us.
Okay, so what's the plural of Estadio?
Pardon?
What's the plural of Estadio?
I think it's stadium. Stadium, yeah.
You know, easy now, Joe. Stadium, so, because I just wanted to find out if, you know, how the estadio look. You know, if they're, you know, beautiful, you know, structures, or, you know.
The one that we play in is football specific.
Okay.
And it's that stadium that Jamaica played in 1997 when we had that 0-0 draw that really was a critical result that helped us towards the World Cup in France, 1998. This is the first time we are coming here and securing a point. That's the stadium we are playing in right now. If it's packed to capacity, it's a very intimidating stadium because the stands are just right along on the circumference of the field. The estadio, well, that's more like our stadium. Our stadium is 35,000 capacity. This stadium is 38,000 capacity. Okay. A little bigger. It has an athletic track as well. It's very, 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 very brand new still, although the stadium has, you know, around 15 years, but it seems that it is untouched because, you know, not much athletics takes place here in this side of the world. So football is where it's at. Yes, football, straight football here. It's hard to say that. I don't think I see a basketball court at all. Everywhere you go, it's just football. Last night in fact, yes, this is the information that I have to share. We like the coaching and media staff of Jamaica. We played a match last night. Theodore Whitmore came across to and we won that match.
When you say we won that match, did you play?
Yes, man, of course.
What position?
I am a very defensive player. So I play right back with special emphasis on attacking down the flank.
Roger, don't pull a Brian Williams on me now, you know. Right? If you played, you played. If you didn't play, it's fine.
Yeah, I played, man.
Okay.
I played and everybody was tired. I was not tired, you know.
Wow, because you were on for a short time. So you
1 hour.
So you won. Congratulations, by the way.
Yes.
All right.
And I played in my IRFM shirt.
Your IRFM shirt, brilliant. What was the goal difference? What was it?
I think goal one something like 13-12.
13-12. What kind of match? What?
It's a futsal.
Oh.
Yes.
What they call it something against scrimmage?
Futsal, yes. So it's much shorter than the regulations size goal that you see on TV.
Oh, scrimmage.
Yes, and the goals are much shorter.
You may as well not play with a juice box.
Yeah, man.
But it's fast. But Roger, you need to tell us it's fast-paced action.
Whatever.
It's definitely fast-paced action. It's non-stop. Non-stop.
Unlike the big field when you get a chance to rest if the ball is in the next half.
You should know.
Futsal, Futsal is non-stop. And the facility where we played last night, we have about 10 football fields in terms of futsal facility. We see ladies playing ball, we see children playing ball, we see old men playing ball, we see young men playing ball. It's crazy, man. When I saw it, I said, boy, we have a long way to go in Jamaica where football is concerned.
Okay, Roger, we understand that you got an accent kind of thing down there going on. It's crazy, man. But thank you thank you so much for making a connection. We don't want to see you on Friday. If Jamaica wins, then when would you be back?
If Jamaica wins, then we'd go on to this. Well, not necessarily. Even if we win today, we have to depend on another result.
Okay.
A Cuba-Guatemala draw. So if we win Cuba-Guatemala draw, we're through. But if we win on either one of those teams, then it will be down to the final day as well. So,
more power.
With our destiny still in our own hands.
Okay, more power to the team.
If all goes well, then we should. Everybody should return home on Monday, next week Monday.
All right, we'll see you next week Monday, not a day before.
Okay, well, let's see. From the Jamaican point of view, yeah.
All right, Roger, well, good. We'll hear more from you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Heal everyone.
All right. We'll do. All right, so that was Roger Haspolin and Dua. Thank you very much, Mr. Dwight.
All right.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Hey,
by the way, happening now, Sierra Leone's governing All People's Congress Party has dismissed the country's vice president, raising grave doubts about his political future. Samuel Sam Sumana, remember we spoke about him last week. He's currently in quarantine following the death of one of his bodyguards to Ebola last week. He was expelled after a meeting of a top-tier National Advisory Council of the ruling party. Can you imagine that? We thought it was so good that he had quarantined himself, but it looked like him quarantine himself knowing that there was something else coming. Well, they have expelled him. Don't know what it means, but we'll be following the story. Don't know what it means right now. I don't know if you can expel a vice president, since the vice president and the president run on the same ticket. But they have certainly expelled him from the party. There have been further bombings, separate bombings in Maiduguri, Borno state capital in Nigeria. At least 33 people are dead. Happening now in Nigeria. Boko Haram has claimed responsibility. We understand that the son of the former Chief Justice of Nigeria has gone to Syria to join IS or ISIL. There's a report that claimed that the son of the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Chief Justice Uwais, allegedly fled the country along with his wives and children to join the Islamic State militants in Syria. And this is around the time that Boko Haram is pledging its allegiance to ISIL. And of course, you've heard about the discovery of a 2.8 million-year-old jawbone fragment with teeth attached in Ethiopia. This has changed the timeline of human evolution. The fossil was found in the northeast Ethiopia 2 years ago. It's the first human, they're saying, discovered. Not as old as Jenkinish, but this is about human now, human. Ethiopia is also set to complete expansion work on Addis Ababa Bole International Airport in 2018. We understand the airport is going to be big as Heathrow, and Ethiopia is planning to commission a new facility to meet the rising demand. So, of course, that is being built by the Chinese, an airport that is big as Heathrow in Ethiopia. Can you imagine that? The Mo Ibrahim Prize for Leadership to Namibia. Mo Ibrahim and his panel of judges must have realized that Africa would lose interest in his award if more time went by without a winner being announced. And so Namibia, the Namibian president, outgoing president, has won this. But it's a prize that will never be won by Robert Mugabe. All right. In focus now, just before we go, the government of Burkina Faso has ordered the exhumation of the remains of Thomas Sankara, the former president who was killed in a 1987 coup. Nearly 30 years after he was assassinated, the family of Africa's Che Guevara have convinced the government to finally verify his remains. Remember, Thomas Sankara was murdered, killed, assassinated, and Compaore was his close friend and colleague. He became president. He didn't want the exhumation to take place. Now he was chased out of office 100 days ago, and now the government has said, yes, we will exhume Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara is known as the Che Guevara. He's in the league of Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba. At an early age, he was assassinated, and we don't know if the family has been questioning whether or not the body that was buried was Thomas Sankara's. Well, now the government has said that they will exhume the body. We'll hear much more about that as time goes by. Compaore held power for 27 years. Of course, Thomas Sankara was a captain in an army of Upper Volta, former French colony in West Africa. He was instrumental in the coup that ousted Colonel Saye Zerbo as president in 1982. He took power from Major Jean-Baptiste in an internal power struggle and became president in August 1983. He adopted radical left-wing policies and sought to reduce government corruption. He changed the name of a country from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, which means the land of upright men. And remember, he stopped people from buying expensive cars. He used to ride a bicycle to work. He was killed in mysterious circumstances by a group of soldiers in October 1987. He declared war on corruption and embraced personal austerity, paying himself a salary of $450 a month, slashing the wages wages of his top officials and forbidding the use of chauffeur-driven Mercedes and first-class airline tickets. Thomas Sankara was assassinated because he fought against corruption. He refused to have his picture displayed in public buildings, which is still a rare thing in Africa. Under Sankara, the government also prioritized gender equality, working towards the end of female genital mutilation, forced marriages and polygamy. It was a tragedy that robbed Africa of Africa's share. Che Guevara, from its family, may also have preserved his place among the stars. Thomas Sankara, the remains will be exhumed. We understand that 400 Mexicans are to replace Jamaican workers at the Moon Palace Hotel. Is this true or is this not true? Can somebody tell me? Is 400 or 200 Mexicans? How it goes? We're still talking about China in Jamaica. What's happening? What's happening with the 120 acres of land at Roaring River and Laughing Waters? We understand that China is about to get it, not a blade of grass. And if them cross, hey, this is how we're saying goodbye. My family in prayers with Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben, the elder, one of the elders that I met in my very early years of discovery was Dr. Ben. I met him at the same time I met Professor John Henrik Clark, and both of them, I literally sat at the feet of Henrik Clark, John Henrik Clark, Dr. John Henrik Clark, my elder, and honestly, literally, sat at his feet. Dr. Henrik Clark and Dr. Ben, two of my mentors over time and across time. And so, to the family, right now, more power to you. This is how we say goodbye inside of the Sunday sunshine. See you next week. All good. Take care. Tell about 100.